Welcome back to The Road to Financial Independence. I'm Mike Riskin, the president of CPS Investment Advisors, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner, Pete Galacco, CEO of CPS. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, Mike. I'm pretty good. How you doing?
Doing terrific. Thank you. Today, we got part 3 of Achieving Financial Independence. The first 2 episodes got a lot of great reviews, and we had a lot of feedback and questions from that. And so we're going to expand on some of the ideas and really today focus. So a couple of questions we had was, okay, Mike, that's great. I achieved financial independence, but now what? How do I live off of this mythical pile that you talked about? And I want to start today with talking about achieving financial independence. Remind people how we define it, and then let our audience know how most people. What are the kind of the 3 typical pillars people build their wealth with to be able to generate that financial independence?
So we define financial independence as building a financial pile of assets that sends you a check equal to or greater than the check you're bringing home from work, or equal to or greater than the expenses that you have. Once you've done that, you've covered your expenses, you become financially independent. So to get there, you've got to generate an income stream that you don't have to go to work for. Making money while you sleep, we call mailbox money.
That's right, yeah.
You know, you don't have to get up, take a shower, put your pants on, and go deal with people. You just go to the mailbox and pick up your check. Okay. So you've got to develop that type of financial asset. And the types of assets that you can buy to do that, number one would be owning a company, okay, or a number of companies and actively working in that. The second one would be passive, buying great companies and getting paid dividends on that.
Right, like the stock market?
Like the stock market,
Yep.
Absolutely. And the third one is real estate, rental real estate and stuff like that. The last one, real estate, a lot of people want to do it, but after a couple of years doing it, everybody wants to get out. I mean, it's a tough business.
Real estate can be great, but I think we've seen a lot of people go into it as a passive endeavor on the rental side.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily passive,
It's definitely not passive.
but it's definitely an income producing type asset.
I hear a lot of people say, well, we're just going to buy this house and rent our old house. And a lot of times that doesn't work because, first of all, your renters are going to destroy your house. So when they move out, you're going to have to replace everything. That doesn't make a lot of people happy. Second, what you have is deferred maintenance. So the roof is getting old, the air conditioning is getting old, all that stuff has to replace. The plumbing, stuff breaks down. It's all deferred maintenance that you're going to have to continue to pay for. And the research I did a while back, you need about 30 rental doors to make it worth your while to do it.
Okay.
Because at 30 rental doors, you can hire somebody to do it for you and it doesn't kill you. You can just sit back and collect the check. You don't have to go to work. But I think the real estate side is a harder way to get there.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that passive.
It's not that right. You're gonna work a little bit.
That's right.
And owning a business may not be that passive either. So your real passive income is going to come from your investments.
Right.
All right. So your stocks and your bonds and stuff like that.
That's right. You've built this pile and maybe, hey, that's great. I got $1 million of money in my 401k or in a brokerage account. So how does one go about living off of that? How do you determine how much to take out? How much, monthly, and how do you sleep well at night?
Right.
Knowing that and how do you assure me that money's not going to run out?
Well, that's a great question. But the first thing I want to discuss with people when they're getting ready to retire or they're starting retirement is that you need to keep your expenses low. You need to make sure that you're invested in the market. A lot of people say, now that I'm retiring, shouldn't my asset allocation be a lot more bonds than stocks?
We do hear that a lot, yeah.
And the answer to that is no, because when you retire, you're just not going to go to cash and spend it all that way. You'll run out of money. Actuarially, they're saying somebody in your family is going to live to age 94. The IRS says that. So look at the time frame between your retirement date and 94. That's your investment horizon. So it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year endeavor. It's a long-term endeavor. And you've got to keep up with inflation. We don't know what inflation is going to be, and I'm hoping it's forever is going to be the 2 to 3%. But we saw 2 or 3 years where it was horrible. And people's portfolios didn't keep up with it if they weren't invested properly.
Right.
So putting enough risk in your portfolio is going to make a huge difference on your lifestyle later on. And what's really important is you want to do the right thing, because you can damage the future of your income by doing the wrong things.
Right.
Okay. So, and there's math that we do calculations, we look to see, because, you know, in our portfolios, we don't want to take too much risk. We want to take enough risk to make sense, to help you reach your goals.
No, exactly. And one of the, when we talk about risk and investing, I think, and you talk about stocks and bonds, a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't have time to recover if the market goes down. And certainly if you're not invested properly, that's certainly,
it's certainly the case. Yes.
Certainly the case. But one thing, you know, we always like to go over what the average, you know, actually look at the numbers, look at the data, go back to the data, and kind of see what the markets actually do, because you mentioned, you use the words doing the wrong thing, and certainly at the wrong time. And every time the market goes down, it just seems so much worse. And it always seems like the market's going down way more than the market goes up. And statistically, that's not the case. And so we have some data here to show some folks just like that, and or that data point. And really, you can see why, you know, certain years, why you would want to bail out, and kind of go over this chart with us a little bit.
So we wanted to take a long enough look at a number of years, okay? And we also want to look at worst case scenario, because if I can handle the worst case scenario and it doesn't happen, your life is going to be a lot better.
Right.
So my worst case scenario was 1973 and 74. 73 was over 50 years ago. That was the year of Nixon resigning in the first oil shock, where our president got up and said, "We have 1 barrel of oil left, but don't panic." Everybody panicked.
It's like the scene from Airplane when they ran out of coffee.
That's right. That's right. So in 1973 and 74, you lost 40% of your portfolio. So if you had $1 million, you had 600 grand at the end of those 2 years. That's pretty scary.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we want to start with those, and we wanted to actually look at the returns on the S&P 500, not just the actual index.
Yeah, just get a sense. Yeah,
just get a sense. If you just did what the market did, how did you perform? And if you take a look at this chart, your average annual return over the last 50 years is 12.37%. All right. Do you want 12.37% for the last 50 years? Sure. But you can't have it.
Why can't I have it?
You can't have it.
That's not nice.
Because you'd need to buy the S&P 500 on January 1st of 1973 and still own it on December 31st of 2024 and never sell it. You know, there's 13 negative years in the last 50 years. And those 13 years were bad enough where people did the wrong thing.
You're right. Well, especially after you told me after 2 years after I retire, I'm down 40%.
You're down 40%. You want out.
I don't know if I have the stomach for that.
Yeah. Well, the first year you tell me, hey, you know, the market's down. I'm a little scared. I'm like, it's okay, Mike. It's going to come back.
Right.
Next year, you're down 40%. Pete, you're full of it.
Right.
I'm firing you. You're out.
Right.
Then 1975, it's up 37%.
I'd probably give you a call and say, okay, Pete, you're
Well,
right.
no, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
1976 is up 23%.
Oh,
then you go, I got to call Pete.
I got to get back
Come
in.
back in at 77. 77 is down 7%, and you never get back in.
Never get back in. That's right. Nope.
So you got to take the emotion out of it. We know in the last 50 years, in normal markets, the market goes down 13 years out of the last 50.
Right. For the whole annual return.
For the whole annual return. It's not a lot, but you have to understand, you look at years that they're down 26%, 22, 37%. Those are horrible. But we also had bad times when the market was down 5%, 3%. You know, you look at 1990, it was down 3.1%. That was the first Gulf War, started in 1990. We had a horrible recession during that time. Why were people panicking at a negative 3% return? Well, the year before that in 89, it was up 31%. Now it's down 3%. The whole world's falling apart.
Right.
The next year it goes up 30%. So, you know, if we can just keep people from doing anything when it looks bad, when it just looks bad, because if you look at this chart, every time the market's down, the market goes up dramatically right after.
That's right.
So in 73, 74, 40% down, 75, 37 up, 23 up, 7 down, 6, 18, 32, 4 down, 21, 22, 6, 31. These are big years after these down years.
Right.
And what this shows you is if you did absolutely nothing and just closed your eyes, you'd make a lot of money. Well, How much money would you make?
I'm glad you asked.
That's a great question. So if you started in 1973 and you just put $100,000 in, that's a lot of money back.
That
in
was a lot of
73,
money, yeah.
But if you just, and it works now, if you put it in now, it's going to grow the same way.
Same math.
If you have the same discipline. So if you put 100,000 in 1973, by 2024, it's grown to 21.4 million.
Wow.
And you did nothing other than close your eyes during that time.
Yep.
21.4 million. Long-term investing works. It dramatically works. But the problem with long-term investing is we all have emotions. And we always want to buy that shiny object, or when the market goes down, we're scared that we're always told it's never going to come back. Don't believe them. All right. So when you retire, this is the conversation we're going to have. We need you to understand that the market isn't scary. It's not going to be down. There's only in 50 years, it was down more than 1 year twice. 73, 74, and 2000 to 2002.
Right.
And the 2000 through 2002, that was a tech bubble. It stayed down because 2001 we had 9/11.
Yeah.
So we had other problems that it probably would have fixed itself long before that.
Right.
But every other year that's down, it's been 1 year. You know, you can hold out 1 year to grow. And I always use the example of the 2008 financial crisis. So if you bailed out towards the bottom, let's say you didn't bail at the bottom, but you bailed out at 7,500. It went down to 6,500. We're at 44,000 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that 44,000 grew pretty quickly. Had you just stayed in there,
Right.
very wealthy. Had you gotten out, now you're scared to get back in, get back out. You're trying to time the market.
Time the market, yeah.
It doesn't work. Time is your friend. Close your eyes and let these great companies do what they do.
Yep. And that's why it's important to invest in great companies. And as we the Warren Buffett quote, know what you own and why you own it.
That's correct.
That's super important. So that, you can see periods of time here where you would have had less money than you started with. You look at 2000 to 2008, you look at 73 to 77, like you said, you retire and 5 years later, I'm still below what I started at, but being patient, stay invested in great U.S. companies. The math will work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we did this math because one of the biggest questions we get on a daily basis is, you've been telling us to save, and invest. And I did that. Now I'm getting Social Security and I don't have a paycheck coming in. How much can I live off this portfolio? How do I do this?
Right. I need that thing to start sending me some money.
Right.
Yeah.
I got bills to pay. And you said that, hey, if I can do this, I can live off my portfolio. And we did this math because we wanted to test out the withdrawal rates that we can take out and have a great probability of never running out of
This
money.
is something we hear a lot. There's a lot of articles written about this, the whole withdrawal rate. We hear different 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%.
And it's all about math.
And
I'm going to explain to you why we picked the number we picked. And had we not done the worst case scenario, it would be a whole lot better. So, looking at the worst case scenario that you retire in the first 2 years, your portfolio goes down 40% and you're living off of it.
Right. That's right. You're taking money out of this thing.
So you're taking out a lower. So we want to take in consideration all these big downturns. And the first one, we want to make sure that it doesn't do well in the first 2 years.
It was horrific. Yeah.
And if it was zero in those first 2 years, the money would be substantially bigger. But so in this chart, how big does your pile need to be? We did the research on this, and this is 100% equities. All right. This is all S&P 500 from 1973 to 2024. If you retired on January 1st of 1973, the first red line is a 7% withdrawal rate. So just to make the math easy, $1 million, 7% is $70,000 a year.
Right.
We indexed it about 3% every year. So you can take the 3%. Every distribution is 3% more every year.
So you get a little bit of a raise.
They get a little bit of a raise to keep up with inflation.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you took out 7% and use the true numbers, you run out of money in 16 years.
Okay. So if I'm 85, that's probably not a problem.
If you're starting at 85,
Right.
but
If I'm starting at 60, that's a problem.
it's a problem.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people say, well, I'm probably not going to live 16 years. Well, you can't tell me when you're going to die. I've got to make sure this money outlives you. And I don't know how long that's going to be. So why don't we do it to a point where we make it so you never run out?
Yeah, we want to be more conservative.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't get this wrong.
That's right. No, if you get this wrong, you can't start over.
You cannot get this wrong.
Correct.
And
correct.
no one's, and you're not moving into my living room.
That's right. So 16 years you may think it's enough, but I'm not comfortable at 16 years. So the next one is the blue line. It's 6%. 6% is $60,000 a year index for inflation, and you run out of money in 29 years.
Okay.
Okay.
It's getting a little better.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit better. Still not comfortable with that because I don't know how long people are going to live.
Right.
So if you take 5% off, which is $50,000 index for inflation, your money grows from $1 million to $18.9 million.
Wow.
That 1 percentage point between 5 and 6 is huge.
Well, that is mad. Look at the compounding on that.
It is huge.
Insane. Yeah.
And that is just in an aggressive 100% S&P 500 portfolio.
Okay.
As long as you, my feeling is as long as you can stay 5% or below,
Right.
and you make sure that it's invested properly, you got the big dividends coming in and good, decent returns year after year,
Right.
not blowing it out 1 year and going way down, you're going to be able to take 5% out without worrying about running out of money.
Okay.
And it works. We have people doing that. We've had
Exactly.
people doing that for a long time. And they actually have more money than they started out with because they didn't start out with a 40% decrease.
Right.
That helps.
that helps.
Right.
Now,
So
now, you're not telling me that I need to be fully in 100% stocks to achieve this, are you?
No, definitely not. Now, if you want to blow it out of the water, absolutely.
Right.
You know, if you got this much time, you can do that, but we don't know how much time you have. So taking a little less risk may end up with less money long term, but it lasts longer.
Right.
All right. Because with less risk means that your portfolios don't go down as much, which means you're not taking on. So
The downside is a lot
downside is a
less.
lot less.
Okay.
So you're able to keep a lot more of your money. And if you take a look, the 7%, you run out of money in 16 years on
Now
the
this,
equities.
sorry to interrupt. So this is what kind of allocation are we
Oh,
looking at here?
this is a 60-40, 60% in equities, 40% in fixed income.
Okay. So more of
a
like
bond.
a balanced.
Correct, a balanced.
Okay.
And that's historically been the normal balance. Right now we're 70-30, 75-25 because stocks are actually performing a little bit better than bonds are right now. But in a traditional 60-40,
Right.
If you took out 70,000, 7%, instead of 16 years, it lasts 20 years.
Right.
So you get a couple
Yeah, because
more
you didn't
years.
get quite as creamed in those first couple of
That's
years.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Makes a lot of sense.
If you take out 6%, $60,000 a year, it goes from 29 years to 38 years.
Okay.
Okay. You may say that's enough. And if you want to die with your last penny,
That might be the route to go.
that might be the route to go. But chances are we're not going to be able to pick the right date or the time.
Right,
so you're
right.
going to have money left over. But in this situation, the money grows from $1 million to $13.2 million over 50 years.
Okay.
So you don't get as much at the end, but
Well, your kids don't get as much.
your
as-
kids, you're absolutely right. Your heirs don't get as much at the end, but you have a lot less volatility.
Sure.
But this type of situation, when you retire and you have financial assets like this, it's an automatic. You turn it on and you just live your life.
Right.
You don't worry about the ups and downs. We've already taken that into consideration. Not every year in our example is up.
Right.
We know that there's going to be some bad years. So taking that into consideration and understanding that we're not taking out enough of your portfolio to destroy the future growth of it.
Right. And then, of course, this is certainly a great example of how we come up with our thought process and how much you take off the portfolio. And so much planning goes into this. It starts hopefully before you retire,
Yep.
understanding how much you do actually need to live off of
And that's
and
probably
doing the math backwards, right?
most of the time, that's the most important number you need is what you're spending.
Right. So if I'm spending let's say I spend 100,000 a year, and we're doing the 5%,
You need about 150 with taxes, and
Right.
so you need
about 3 million
$3 million
to get my 5%.
Yep, is going
Grows
to
to
get you
150.
150.
Yeah.
Correct. So it's an easy calculation to do, and it's something that once you're there, as long as your portfolio is correct,
Right.
it's automatic. It's just keep
It
living your
works.
life.
It works.
Right. And another reason why it's important to pick the 5% rather than the 6 or 7 is you notice that your assets are going down throughout the years. You know, six, they're going down. They're staying even, then they start going down. But what happens if you have to replace a roof and an air conditioner, buy a car? You got some big expenses that might take a few years off of the longevity of your money.
Right.
At 5%, it's not going to.
Right. Because you might not get the stock hit, the stock market hit, but you could get a financial hit.
Right.
That would-
Parents having to move in, children having to move in. Now all of a sudden your expenses are a little bit more. By taking 5% off, it gives you
It's that
much
level
more
of cushion, yeah.
much more wiggle
And let's face it, I don't think this is breaking news that your health care does not get any cheaper as you get older.
No, it doesn't. So,
As my hip is a little sore this morning.
well, yeah, and you got to take that into consideration, healthcare and all of your expenses. So usually what I do maybe 5 years before somebody's getting ready to retire is we sit down and say, all right, what are you spending? And what can we cut out? Because as we work and we bring in a paycheck, we can afford that. We don't have to cut that out. We can afford that. Well, when you're on fixed income, all of a sudden that's different. So if I can get my clients to be lean and mean,
Right.
when the retirement money comes in, they got more. Well, you can add stuff back.
That is such a great point. And one of the biggest misnomers that we hear is, I live off 100,000 a year, but when I retire, I'm just going to live off of 60.
No.
That
So
does not work.
That was old financial planning where when people retired, they went from 100 to 70% of their income or 60% of their income. But that was during times where the kids lived across the street. They lived down the road. The grandkids are in town.
Right.
Nowadays,
You have people to take care of you.
we're all over the place.
Right.
So if you want to see your grandkids, you're going to have to fly, rent a car. You're going to have to do stuff. It's going to be expensive.
Right.
So 100% of what you're spending now is the minimum you need to plan
That's
for
what you should plan for.
in retirement.
Yeah, people are like, I'm not going to have a mortgage anymore. Well, magically, even though you paid off your mortgage, magically you find some, travel more, you do this, that. So you do magically.
We don't have a mortgage. Let's get a beach house.
That's right.
Now we got a mortgage again.
or the RV.
That's right. The RV. Right. So, staying lean and mean with your expenses is going to make your retirement a lot more
Right.
prosperous.
Right. You can. The whole key here is living with the same lifestyle that you're used to while you're working to be able to replicate it in retirement.
That's correct. That's correct.
awesome.
Because a lot of people who don't save and don't do it right take an instant pay cut when they retire.
Yeah.
It's hard to live off Social Security
tough.
when you're getting $2,000 or $3,000 a month when you're used to making, $100,000 a year. That's really tough.
Right.
So if you're not planning right now, you need to start because this is reality right now.
Oh yeah. Start young. It's never too early. And tune into our YouTube channel or anywhere else where you get your podcast for other additional educational content. We've got a lot of things rolling out here in 2025. Thanks again for watching. And if you'd like to contact us, feel free at info@cpsinvest.com, as well as 863-688-1725. And look forward to doing this again soon. Thanks again. Bye.